I think it was after Irma, I believe, we were approached when I was still working in domain affairs, you, Madam, Mr. Chairman, where certain entities that were already operating on the beach, they basically got bulldozed. Their snack bar was bulldozed by Sun Resorts because they believed that they owned the beach. Since then, you know, the entities came to Vromi when we were working there, and we advised them to take it to court. Why? Because according to the Civil Code, Book 5, Articles 25 and 26, the beach is part of the ownership of government of the country. So that means that even though Sun Resorts was claiming to be the owner of the beach, they would have to prove this legally. The entity took our advice from Domain Affairs back then. This was in 2017 or 18, I believe. And they came back after, I think it was a year, and they won. They won the case, and Sun Resorts did not appeal the case. This means that the beach side of Mullet Bay, since then, legally has been owned by Country St. Maarten. I must say to you, Mr. Chairman, that at this point, I don't understand what the actual goal is of the inquiry and what new information we think we will find after the inquiry. The ownership of the whole Mullet Bay property is not a question. That has been determined already. The golf course and the larger area of the property belongs to Sun Resorts, and the beach belongs to Country St. Maarten, as per Articles 25 and 26 of Book 5 of the Civil Code. The ownership of the Mullet Bay beach itself is not disputable. The beach already belongs to the country and cannot be sold or have access restricted without coming to Parliament first. That is what Article 26, Section 2 of Book 5 of the Civil Code clearly states. So that's a non-issue. And this is the crucial part of the case because the over-evaluation of the value of the Mullet Bay property is largely done because they take our beach in their assessment. That is wrong. And till up to today, I do not see government saying anything about this specific aspect.
Mr. Chairman, let me start off by saying that I will be presenting a motion concerning the topic that we are speaking here today. And the reason why I started by saying that is there is no mixed feelings with me whatsoever in terms of any of my colleagues not receiving or getting the motion in a timely manner or fashion to peruse or go through the motion. If any one of my colleagues feel that way, I humbly apologize for that, simply because, Mr. Chairman, as the motion was being completed and it was passed on, in my assumption, I wanted to believe that it was passed on to the other and the other and the other. So I apologize for that as well, for anyone that feel they didn't receive it in a timely manner or fashion to peruse the motion. Nonetheless, I have been speaking about bringing a motion concerning Mullet Bay from our last meeting that we had. Mr. Chairman, it goes over now for me to the order of the day and asking this simple question. What comes first? The country of St. Maarten or the Mullet Bay property? Which one comes first? Mr. Chairman, both. Both. And the reason why I'm saying this is not 5 years, it's not 10 years, it's not 15 years, it's not 20 years, it's not 25 years, it's 28 years. 28 years, Mr. Chairman. So you can imagine all the children, everyone in this country that was born after 1995 has no knowledge, nothing whatsoever, none, what Mullet Bay looked like, what Mullet Bay all about, what it meant to this country, what it meant to the neighboring islands, what it meant to fathers and mothers, aunts and uncles, what it meant to the whole region, Antigua, St. Kitts, Nevis, Anguilla, what it meant to all those neighboring islands. Because, Mr. Chairman, it doesn't have an individual that I would come across in speaking, especially now. It doesn't matter what the discussion is. At some point in time, I would get this. I work with your mother at Mullet Bay. I work with your aunt who was doing taxi at Mullet Bay. Everything you would hear, Mr. Chairman, was something in relations to Mullet Bay. I have my fun moments of the shark hole, jumping off, afraid to walk on the boardwalk because both of you will be sitting down there with a snake around your neck. Those fun moments. The basketball court that was right next to it. The big boys would be showing off their new moves. Who got the fresh Michael Jordan shoes? Mullet Bay. Mr. Chairman, as we speak about Mullet Bay, there is something, Mr. Chairman, that makes the people of St. Maarten feel this love, affection for whatever it is to that property that we call Mullet Bay. So that's why I asked the question, which one comes first? The people of St. Maarten, or the property? The beach, which one comes first? It doesn't matter. What matters, St. Maarten, what matters, Mr. Chairman, is that 'tis we own. 'Tis we's own. It belongs to us. It belongs to us. Now, we can get in. We can get into the discussion of Sun Resorts, Ania, the Central Bank of St. Maarten. We can get into that discussion. I'm not disagreeing with my colleagues when they make mention of the lands we're ordering, the right of expropriation, the right of this. I am not disagreeing, Mr. Chairman. But the fundamental issue that I have is time.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy, as I said in my elucidation earlier, with the progress we have made and the closer steps that we're getting to finding the truth behind everything regarding Mullet Bay via the inquiry, being able to come up with tangible solutions, not just on our own, but well-researched in solutions for the situation that St. Maarten faced, and take all of the different opinions of everyone into account and come up with a well-researched, a well-documented, and one where, by even of measures of getting documents by law and having people testify under oath, then you have the truth, then you act. Mr. Chairman, I have to say it has been a great pleasure thus far working within the Mullet Bay Inquiry Commission. I feel like that commission functions like how Parliament should function. Because in the commission currently, we have 2 coalition members, we have 2 opposition members. And of course, without going into details of those discussions, what I can tell you is that we always maintain our professionalism. Not once in the years that this commission has operated have you heard of a leaked document? Have you heard of a recorded conversation? Have you heard of any emails being leaked? None of that. We have operated with the utmost integrity and professionalism within that commission. And that is what is essential to the success of this. Mr. Chairman, without going into the confidential matters within the inquiry, to give the public a bit of a summary based on what we have all read within the media of where we are now with Mullet Bay, I will summarize it as follows. Mullet Bay, and when we say Mullet Bay, it's actually officially called Mullet Pond Beach, which is what we all call Mullet Bay Beach. And then you have the Mullet Bay property, which is subdivided into various areas and encompasses, I believe, I don't remember the number of square meters, but a very large piece of land bordering Point Pirouette, etc. The value of this property has been ascertained by the courts of St. Maarten has been inflated. This property is owned by an entity called Sun Resorts. Sun Resorts was transferred to the books of the insurance company Enia, And upon receiving that property at a lower value, audits have shown, and the court cases have shown, that the value of the property continued to be inflated. So on the left side of the balance sheet, you see a property that's listed for over 300 million in value, for example, and what the entity was doing under the orders of their top company, Parlament Group, which is headed by Hushang Ansari, under those orders, loans were drawn against that asset within this insurance company. Because if you have that 300 million in asset and you go to a bank, they will say, sure, we'll gladly give you 300 million. At some point, and it's one of the things that needs to be ascertained by the inquiry, despite this supposing to be a public supervised entity, despite so many years passing, despite so many governments, despite it being an obvious problem that Mullet Bay has never been developed, this passed through everyone's eyes until, I believe it was 2016, when finally the central bank really looked into this, and as a result, using the necessary laws, decided to take administrative action because the entire company of Enya was at risk because of this behavior. And it was flagged because of a $100 million drawing that the court documents show that went to a Bank of New York suddenly out of Enya during a very tough economic time. That prompted the central bank, according to their statements in the court cases, to investigate. They found the issues and they took administrative action. So to be clear, does the central bank own Sun Resorts, Mullet Bay, Enya? No. But it is under a strict legal administrative procedure where they can decide. Despite the many challenges to that have been shot down in court, they have the power to decide what happens within Enya and their assets. So this is where we are today. MP Emmanuel touched me as well, and I think many of us in here, when he talked about the memories of Mullet Bay. I myself have those. We all do. I remember Prince, now King Willem Alexander, coming to St. Maarten to play golf and thinking that I would go with my dad to play golf a regular day. I didn't realize that he was actually playing with the Prince at the time. I remember the series Miami Vice, Don Johnson, coming to St. Maarten regularly to play with the locals because he was amazed at the local talent of golf players at the time. And I get the opportunity to caddy for him as a young man. There's so many memories, so many people that worked that has just been allowed to remain the same. And oftentimes, you can imagine and look back at whenever action was being attempted to be taken against this property, not too long later, a government would fall. Mr. Chairman, it is time that we be serious and open the eyes and ears and be straight about this. But speaking about it on Parliament as MP Rolando Bryson is one thing, but a parliamentary inquiry coming out with the facts of the matter, with statements, not from me, but from those that are interviewed by the commission, and putting a final stamp to the truth might really finally open the eyes and ears of the people of St. Maarten and teach us a lesson of what we can learn from this to make sure this never happens again in our country. So if you want to ask me, you don't want to read the 20-something page proposal that has all the hypothesis and all of the justification for why the inquiry is there, and you ask me why, that is why. Because the truth will definitely set St. Maarten free. Mr. Chairman, I have had situations where members of my own party, former members, I came to this Parliament and I made a notification to congratulate the people of St. Maarten. Congratulations to you, because that was the date that the court case was won by Enya against Ansari et al. A great victory for St. Maarten. And I was chastised for saying that. Say, you don't speak on behalf of the up, or everybody in the up when it comes to that.
We go over to the voting on the second motion, draft motion, which was presented by MP Christophe Emmanuel. It was supported by MP Rolando Bryson, by MP George Pantaflet, and MP Hyacinth Richardson. The resolution to this draft motion states that as shareholder of the CBCS, which is the central bank, the government of St. Maarten, via its Minister of Finance, Artwell Arion, makes every effort that approval of any potential sale of the Mullet Bay property is delayed at least until June 2023, at which time the parliamentary inquiry into the Mullet Bay property on St. Maarten is expected to be completed. For the government of St. Maarten to make every possible effort to ensure that the interest of St. Maarten is paramount in any decision made related to the Mullet Bay property, that the Mullet Bay Commission in Parliament, with the support of the Secretariat, expedites the completion of its assignment and presents the final report within 4 months, and goes over to the order of the day. Does anyone request hoofdelijke stemming? Hoofdelijke stemming is requested. Does anyone request or desire motivation? Please indicate so by pressing your button. The first request for motivation comes from MP Christophe Emmanuel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to my colleague, Hyacinth Richardson, he almost had me. Almost, Mr. Chairman. If he had only said it on a Monday, perhaps I would have said, bring that coalition agreement, and let us see where we can go with it from there. But besides that, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank my honorable colleagues for the support on this motion. Like I said, Mr. Chairman, for me, I don't see it in terms of this, that, and who's here. I just see it as securing. Mr. Chairman, time is of the essence. Time that we don't have. And like I said, it's 28 years. And once and for all, honestly, once and for all, we definitely have to give the people of St. Maarten back the property that is known as Mullet Bay. So I thank my colleagues for the support. Mr. Chairman, I also want to thank MP Bryson for his input, my colleague Duncan also for the input, and also my colleague PFP that also made their input from it, my staff and all the rest of them that chime in. I want to thank them all, and with that being said, I will be supporting this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MP Emmanuel. The next to motivate, MP Solange Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in this Parliament, numerous MPs have supported 2 motions at the same time because there are components that may show themselves in one motion that may not show themselves in the other motion. The spirits of the motion we can agree with, and at the end of the day, the motion is a request, some might say a demand, but a request from government to act. I am looking or waiting for government now, after today, to respond to the motion, which I believe will pass from MP Emmanuel, let's see. But I am looking forward to hearing, especially from the Minister of Finance, what is possible, what is not possible, or what is government's stance on this whole matter, because we haven't heard government's stance on this matter, I don't believe. And so I'm looking forward to that and supporting this motion as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Solange Duncan. We have no further request for motivation, so we go over immediately to voting. And we start by number 10. Number 10.
MP Rayon Peterson.
Against.
MP Hyacinth Richardson.
For, Mr. Chairman.
MP Angelique Rameau.
For.
MP Ludmila De Weaver. MP Sarah Westcott Williams. MP Akeem Arundel. MP Siddharth Bijlani.
For.
MP Rolando Bryson,
For.
MP Solange Duncan,
For.
MP Christophe Emmanuel,
For.
MP Melissa Gums,
Against.
MP Grisha Heiliger Maarten, MP George Pantaflet,
For.
Vice Chairman William Marlin,
For. We have 11 votes that have been cast, 9 for and 2 against the draft motion number 2 submitted by MP Emmanuel Gums. My apologies. Christophe Emmanuel. Emmanuel Gums is my good friend who's deceased. Emmanuel Gums is deceased. The draft motion presented by MP Christophe Emmanuel has been accepted with 5 votes, 9 votes for and 2 votes against.